Hi all, Alex here to tell you about my Raspberry Pi Honeypot Access Point project. Raspberry Pis are small, versatile Linux systems that can be modified to use for all sorts of things. The purpose of this project is to make a fake wireless access point that will mimic the SSID of another access point to try to capture user credentials of users using poor judgment when choosing an access point to connect to. In order to make the project work, you have to have your Pi set on access point mode and then host a web server with a submission form to snag the user credentials. As a disclaimer, as will be seen in the demonstration, I passed the snagged passwords through an encryption algorithm so that I do not have access to them in plain text. For this project, I used a Raspberry Pi Model 2B, but any Raspberry Pi model should work. Hardware needed to make this project work is the Pi itself, a micro USB power supply, an SD card with Raspbian OS on it, a Wi-Fi dongle that supports access point mode, and other useful hardware include a monitor that supports HDMI, an HDMI cable, a USB mouse, and a USB keyboard. These items are not necessary if you plan to run your Pi headless through remote access. Once the Pi is set up as an access point, it is ready to plug in and go. Some software is needed to turn the Pi into an access point. HostAPD is the daemon used to turn the Wi-Fi dongle into an access point, and DNS mask is used to resolve users to hosted web pages. Pis can function as a full router or hotspot with additional software, but that functionality is not needed for this project. To host a web server, I use the Apache Web Server software. PHP as well as libapache mod PHP are also needed for this project to function correctly. PHP is a server-side scripting language that is needed for the processing of HTML form input. Libapache mod PHP serves as a communication bridge between a PHP script and an Apache web server. I would now like to run through a demonstration of the functionality of the Honeypot project. My PHP script that is embedded into my HTML form is set to write the input provided into a file called user data in the /var/www/html directory, as can be seen by the bottom of this listing. We can view the contents of this file with the cat command. As you can see, there's currently no data stored in the file. The Wi-Fi access point is now set up and should be discoverable by any wireless device. As you can see, my computer is currently connected to my Wi-Fi network, Alex and Sarah 2.4G, but there's another SSID with the same name. This is my Pi access point. The SSID can be configured to be any name you choose. The access point is open, which means it's not password protected, to allow users to connect to the network and open the hosted web page. It is possible to set a password, but that defeats the purpose of this project. Now we'll open a web page. When we go to a website, it will bring up the form that we have hosted on our Pi. This is a very basic representation of what can be done, but with a little extra effort, a page can be made to look almost exactly like the sign-in page of the network you were trying to mimic. We'll go ahead and enter some credentials. So we'll say John and a password. And here it redirects us to a page saying error logging in, network unavailable. But actually, the processdata.php took the input from the form and sent it to our Pi. We'll do one more. Another look at the user data file, and we can see that the project has indeed worked as it is expected. As you can see, the usernames that we entered are there along with their encrypted passwords. I came across a few problems while making this project work. The wireless dongle that you must use must support AP mode and have a driver that allows it to be used on a Linux system for the project to work. Even with having the right hardware, trial and error with configuration settings was needed to get the project to function properly. One problem I ran into was my PHP script was not working in conjunction with my web server. After a little research on the internet, I found the communication tool needed to make it work, and it was smooth sailing from there. This project would be very valuable to any company. A simple trip around the block of companies in your local town will turn up tens of access points. If your institution allows its occupants to connect wirelessly, they are at risk to this type of attack. This attack is not limited to stealing user information. By connecting to an unknown network, other security risks such as infection via malware exist. This project can determine how susceptible a network of users are to this type of attack, as well as serve an educational opportunity on the caution that should be used when connecting to a wireless network. This project allowed me to learn some important things. I had not used a Pi before this project, which allowed me to learn my way around a Linux device to familiarize myself with the setup of an operating system, the installation and compilation of software, and the Linux command line. Prior to this project, I had little to no server experience and no experience using PHP. The project allowed me to introduce myself to both of these things. Finally, the project gave me a new perspective on security. The ease at which I was able to create this project shows that it would be relatively simple for this type of attack to occur, and with the increasing amount of wireless local area networks in the world, the potential for this type of attack is growing in size. That is my honeypot project, and I hope you enjoyed.